And then I prayed. I prayed that hopefully there'll come a time where this cloth, this fabric, this blanket will be removed so I can just walk around and have a good time. My prayers were answered, I started walking around, but my parents did something strange to me. They said, no, you can't walk over there, and you can't walk over there, and you can't talk like this, and you can't talk like that, and you can't eat this, and you can't eat that. Then I realized from being held hostage by a blanket, now I'm being held hostage by my parents' moral codes. Do this and don't do that. They said, man, will there ever come a time where I just don't see my parents, every day for 24/7? It happened. I went to school. And then in the classroom, I realized my teacher says, you got to do it this way. You got to do it that way. And if I didn't, he would come with a stick and, slap my hand with the stick, or slap my face, or slap my behind. And I said, man, I escaped from my parents. I fall trap into the instructor's arms, and say, man, will there ever come a time where I'm free from that? And I get to be 18, 19, and I realize I'm a young man. My sexual hormones is just driving me crazy. And my parents look at me and they worry about me sinning, sleeping with someone without being married. So they say, it's time for you to get married. I say, yes, my prayers are answered. Now I can have sex. And then I, have sex. I enjoy my companionship with my wife. And then all of a sudden she comes to me and says, you're going to be a dad. But before becoming dad, I realize I'm being pushed around by my wife. Get this, get that, go there, go there, And say, man, from the womb to the blanket, from the blanket to my parents, from my parents to my teacher, from teacher to being abused by, these hormones running wild. From these hormones, I am trapped by my wife. And then kids are born. And like what Julian said, I look at my kids, I hold them, I love them, I kiss them. Then I begin to worry about their future. I put them to school. I worry about what they're going to learn. I take them to society. I worry about what they're going to be exposed to. They want to have friends. I worry about their friendship. And I say, God, please help me escape this misery. And my kids eventually get married, and now they have their own lives. And I say, thank God, now I can sit and think and write and feel and pray and go to church or the mosque or the temple or the synagogue every single day. As I stand to go for a walk towards the church or the mosque or the synagogue, I realize my hip, my knees, my shoulders, I'm too old, I'm far too feeble, too weak to, carry my body anywhere. And now I realize I'm now in the cradle of old age. I can't do much. I'm always sick, I'm always tired. And then after being sick and tired for too long, I say, God, please give me death. I can't do this anymore. And now I sit in my tomb, I'm dead. I say eventually, ultimately now I'm free from life. And now the angels of death come to me. And they resurrect me from the dead and they ask me, how did you live your life? Was it meaningful? Was it meaningless? Meaningless? Does it have any value? And so if God asks me, what were the reasons as to why I couldn't truly be a passionate human being, why I couldn't live my life passionately, meaningfully, truthfully? I say, I was thrown from one prison to another. I never really had a chance. When is enough enough? Soon you will find yourself a job. Soon you'll come to realize perhaps it's not the best thing to spend your money on alcohol, drugs, and porn, or waste it on your friends, or on buying a ridiculous car. You save your money and you buy a house. And you say, yes, you go to Home Depot, you go to Home Goods, you decorate it, you fix it up. And then you look at it, you say, nah, this is not enough. I need a wife or a husband. And then you play with that for a while and say, nah, that's not enough. I want a family. And then you realize, man, your kids need health insurance. In a vulturous, corrupt culture such as this, where no one cares about anyone, you need to protect your wife, you need to protect your home. And before you know it, you spend 5, 6, 7 hours on the phone every single day to figure out who the best insurance company is, who will give you the most amount of benefits for your kids, for yourself, for your family. And before you know it, you're 60, 70, 80. Now, if your question is there a shortcut? There is. But it's a really, really, really tough road. I don't even know if any of us in this class or outside of this class are equipped for it. I have no doubt that every boxer wants to be Floyd Mayweather or Manny Pacquiao or Mike Tyson or Muhammad Ali or George Foreman. They just never make it. I think every golfer wants to be like Tiger Woods or Jack Nicholson. Every tennis player wants to be like Novak Djokovic or Roger Federer. They just don't make it. There are not too many number one spots in the world of tennis. There's only one number one. It changes once in a while, but the top 5 are just going to be top 5. Someone who's number 100, unless they're extremely talented, like Carlos Alcaraz, they will never make it to top 5. It's impossible. So we have dreams, and there is nothing wrong with having dreams. They'll never become a reality. So your dream is to become content. Your dream is to have the best food possible. Your dream is to be profoundly attached to people, love them, care for them, and then let them go when it's time for them to let go. And your job, perhaps, your desire is to figure out what to do with this relationship of yours. So, it's something we've talked about plenty of times in this class, and we'll kind of talk about them again. And one of the things you need to understand about philosophy, at least the way I teach philosophy, is that I keep repeating the same thing in a different way over and over and over again. And the truth is, if you want to be good at anything, you can't just jump around. You have to just practice making spaghetti over and over and over and over again until you get it just perfect. Chris works at Zachary's. That's one of the things that he does. And one of the nice things about Zachary's is that I don't know how it came about. I don't know how this place came to be, how old it is as a company, as a pizza shop. But I'm sure that anyone who first had this dream about making a Zachary's pizza shop in Berkeley or Oakland, they said, I want to make this deep dish pizza. They tried a few places, and then they said, okay, these are the ingredients. I'm going to go home and see if I can make a sauce that is comparable to what I had in New York. Now, they're going to spend a lot of money, they're going to spend a lot of time, and they're going to use a lot of ingredients. Which means they're going to waste a lot of time, they're going to waste a lot of energy, and they're going to waste a lot of ingredients. But in wasting, hopefully you will attain perfection. So this man sits or stands in the kitchen and keeps making the same thing over and over and over and over again. Until one day he says, yes, it's right. Then he tries to copy it, only to realize, no, it's not tasting the same. Then he comes to realize his mistake. When he was mixing the ingredients, he wasn't taking notes. And then he says, I'm going to do this again, but this time I'm going to take notes. And then he did. He tried the same thing over and over and over again, and he took notes. He went through 50, 60, 70 notebooks until he got it just right. And in getting it right, something really interesting happened. Consistency. You go to Zachary's today, you go tomorrow, you go a month later, you travel back in time 50 years, it's always the same. And when you make something that's perfect, contentment comes with it. Okay? But as long as you're reaching for perfection, you can't be content. It's poison. Okay? So just in case some of you have this feeling that I keep talking about the same thing, you're absolutely right, in different ways. There is this first principle in life that the Greeks have given us. The Christians call it lust, and it may be true. And lust really is not Christian, it's been around as old as humanity, really. But the Greeks have a name for it. It's called ludos, and it means to flirt. It's a dance that all of us have no choice but to play, to engage in. Beautiful nails. Don't break them. You're a professional. I know you won't. At the very beginning of the semester, I go around asking people's names and try to ask some questions that are relatively mature, decent, kind. It's my way of flirting with students to break the ice, to make a relatively comfortable environment so that the next meeting, when ideas become relatively happy, I have established a foundation, which is one of trust and hopefully faith and kindness and all that stuff. So people are more than willing to share their life stories. And then their life stories becomes tools for ideas. When you go to an interview because you want to get a job, what you're doing is you're flirting with the committee. You tell a joke here, you have a certain body language. Now, if you go back to the foundation of the philosophy that I have shared with you in the past few weeks of this class, this is a very, very, very powerful force. Now, you can inject this force in body, okay? You can flirt because you want to become intimate. Not so much intimate, you just want to have sex with someone. This is called iron. We'll talk about all of those perhaps. I don't know if you have in this class or not. Sometimes you flirt with someone's physical body because you want it. Sometimes you play with someone's emotional body. Someone says to you, for example, I went to this place yesterday and I was inspired by this particular statement made by my friend. And you realize inspiration could possibly be an emotion. So you begin to flirt. And what you do is, so what was the statement? What exactly was it about? I had a friend of mine yesterday, and she asked me if I have ever read the letters of Van Gogh to his brother Theo. And I said, no, I had never heard of it. And so I went to Amazon and I looked at the reviews, I looked at the table of content, some of the passages, and it was like this very potent, very inspired set of letters that Van Gogh, out of anguish and passion and depression and inspiration, had written to his brother. And his brother Theo never shared any of those letters to his wife. And I think when, I'm not sure if I have this right, either Van Gogh died first or Theo died first, but either way, the moment Van Gogh died, Theo died about 6 or 7 months later. That's how attached they were to one another. So remember, you either flirt with someone because there is nothing interesting emotionally, there is nothing interesting intellectually, there is nothing interesting about them spiritually and psychologically speaking, they're kind of empty. They have no trauma within them. So your flirtatiousness has to do with the fact that there is nothing inside this person that's interesting. You just want their body. Sometimes people have very, very interesting stories. Zion comes to class and says, we need to pay attention to the environment. She's very sincere. She's very honest. She has a good amount of emotions in it. And so you begin to flirt with Zion by asking, so what do you mean by environment? Why should I be interested? You don't want to be with her physically. You don't want to take her out for coffee and then have sex with her. You really just are interested in why she feels a certain way about the environment, do you see? Sometimes you talk to someone and you realize that intellectually they're just dazzling. Okay? So you want to figure out why they think the way they think, what their life experiences have been that has led them into thinking a certain way. Some people find themselves in the presence of Jesus Christ and they begin to flirt with him because he has such a complex set of spiritual emotions inside him. They want to understand why he fasted. They want to understand why he left his parents. They want to understand what he means when he says, only through me you get to the Father. Okay? So remember, ludus is the first component that makes life come to life. Okay? You flirt with things. Now, depending on who you are, where you are, what your life experiences have been, how mature you are. If you are interested only in the body, you don't have the education to flirt with someone's intellectual components or spiritual components. This is where you belong. Okay? Now, since this is a philosophy class and since I love ideas, let's put up here the story of Malcolm X. Okay? Now, let's say this is me. Okay? And this is Malcolm. Now, someone like Malcolm, for the most part, has reached the stage where he's very calm, he's very quiet for the most part. He likes to remain invisible. He doesn't like to laugh too much. He's a serious man. He's a serious man because he knows what pain is. He knows the complexities of what it means to be a human being. So most often, his conversations is going to be quite serious, quite intense, and it's going to sometimes make you feel angry, incompetent. You're going to self-hate because Malcolm X just put such a burden on you as a human being that you have a responsibility to yourself, you have a responsibility to your people and the world at large. So you look at Malcolm X and say, Malcolm, would you like to go to Pete's Coffee? I'll buy you a cup of coffee. Now, Malcolm is going to look at me. And he's going to use his intuition. And this is something we haven't really talked about, intuition, and I'm not going to talk about it today, maybe when we come back on Monday. The thing about intuition is the following. You know, sometimes you go into a party or a gathering or you go home, there is your mom, there is your dad, and they don't have to say anything to you. You just feel as if they're going through something. It could be negative or positive. And you don't really know exactly why you know this or why you feel this way. And you kind of want to go to them and say, Mom, Dad, or Joe, or Shmo, are you okay? And what has happened to you is you're not being guided by what you see. You're not being guided by what you hear, what you smell, what you touch, and what you taste. Your intuition has been activated. Something about you feels something, and yet it has nothing to do with your body, but what lives inside your body. It's like you have this antenna. All of a sudden it comes to life, and you see your mom and you say, there's something going on, I don't know what it is. And then you say, should I ask her? Should I not ask her? So Malcolm looks at me and he says to himself, whispers to himself, I'm going to go with Amir to Pete's Coffee because I feel as if he may be ready for what I have inside me. Okay? See, I flirt with Malcolm But I'm a novice. I am unreflective. I don't take anything seriously. I don't take myself seriously. I don't take race seriously. I don't take age seriously. I don't take anything seriously. Malcolm, on the other hand, is the exact opposite of me. He takes everything seriously. So out of naivete, I said, Malcolm, would you like to have coffee with me? And I say this to him because I saw him on YouTube, because I read his work, because I saw him coming to Laney College and giving a talk. Malcolm, on the other hand, has to kind of sit back and weigh his option. I can go to Pete's by myself, I can go home and take a nap, be with my wife and kids, read a book, go for a walk, or I can go with Amir. So you have flirtatiousness happening from two different sides. I am going towards Malcolm, but I am stupid. Malcolm wants to move towards me, but he does it because he is wise. And he intuits that there is something about Amir Sabzevari that could receive certain parts of Malcolm X. So he says yes. Now, as we're sitting and having coffee, I tell Malcolm about my friends. I say, I'm going out on a date. Should I eat pizza or should I do Subway? How should I bury my bird? Should I do iron, bronze, this or that? See, I don't have anything else to talk about. Malcolm makes me feel nervous. I feel incompetent, so I make up stuff. He patiently waits for an opening. And then he comes to realize I've been faking it all along. And then he says, Amir, you know there is nothing wrong with realizing that you're just stupid. You know there is nothing wrong with keeping your mouth shut. There is nothing wrong with you asking me how it felt when I watched my father being lynched. You can ask those questions. And what he's doing is this. He's moving me from my body to my emotions. And what Malcolm is doing, he's flirting to see if my emotions are going to come to life. It's what we call provoking something. Okay? To see if it's going to quack, if it's going to move. It's like a mouth to mouth. Is he going to come back to life? Right now, Amir is only body. Does he have emotions? And just in case Amir's emotions come to life, will Malcolm like what he sees? He's going to not pay attention to my body language. If now that he has asked me or told me I can talk about more serious things, if I'm going to drag those serious things into casual, if I take it down to casual, he's no longer going to flirt. He's going to walk away. Okay? Now, Malcolm is going to keep flirting with me. He'll move me from my body to my emotions. He'll move me from my emotions to my intellect. Where now every time Malcolm and I get together, I have questions to ask him. I am serious. Now I have something I didn't have at the very beginning of our meeting. Now I have respect for him. Now to some extent I know that he is superior to me. He knows things that I don't. Malcolm needs me to tell his story. I need him because without him, my life is meaningless. See, Malcolm can find 1,000 other people out there. I don't. I am poor for Malcolm. Malcolm is just poor for anyone who can listen. And there are 8 billion people on this planet. He can go all over the place. Now, when you do ludos, day after day after day after day, and it has to be focused, okay? Something really, really strange happens. Ludos, and let's start from here. because we are moving up the ladder. When you begin to flirt with someone over and over and over again, it's true you become attracted to the person, okay? But there comes a point in your attraction and then slowly liking this fellow, Malcolm. One morning you wake up and you realize something really awful has happened to you. Eros. Eros is this intense emotion that is focused on only one single thing. Eros is your gateway to love, but you're not there just yet. Now remember how this worked. Whenever you go to Pete's Coffee by Lakeshore, you're walking there. You're going to pass by a lot of people. What are you going to do with your eyes? You're going to look at everything around you. You're flirting with everything. You're allowing everything to enter into you. By the time you get to Eros, you keep your head down. You're only looking forward to seeing Malcolm waiting for you. Nothing out there enters you. Nothing captivates you. There is nothing attractive about the world out there. Your world shrinks to only one person, and that's Malcolm. Okay? I'm telling you what philosophy is. Okay? I'm telling you the miraculousness of being a Jesus Christ or a Martin Luther or a Muhammad, to be one-pointed, to only have one passion, and to be content. Because when you have the eros, when you have this feeling, you don't need to ask, how should I find contentment? Eros makes you content, in the sense that you want nothing else except Malcolm. Zion is immensely lucky. She cares for nothing else except the health of the environment. She has a monogamous relationship, and she refuses to have an affair with anyone except the earth. Now, have any questions? Let me just add one more to it and then we'll go home. There are 7 of them or 8 of them, and I've created another 5 on the top. We'll talk about them later. Now, once you are captured by this intense emotion called eros, something really awful happens to you. Mania. We get the word maniac. You just become crazy. Not crazy in the sense that, well, I suppose you're crazy, you're intoxicated. That you wake up and you just want to be around Malcolm. As you're walking to Pete's Coffee, you think about the ideas shared with you by Malcolm. As you're sitting, you're just enamored by the presence and the power of Malcolm's ideas. When Malcolm says, I gotta go to another meeting, you have this sadness about you, sorrow about you, that Malcolm is the only person that you really care for. Without him, you have no one. And from mania, and remember what mania is, you will do whatever you can to be around Malcolm. You will email him 20 times, text him 50 times. Let me tell you a story and then we'll go home, and it comes from the Quran, the Muslim Bible. One day, God goes to Moses and says, Moses, I keep seeing you walking around with this staff, this cane in your hand. Why? And Moses says, Ramses gave me that staff. I'm paraphrasing now. Sometimes I use the staff as a pillow. Sometimes I use it as a cane. Sometimes I use it to bring down an apple. Sometimes I use it to, to do ABCD with. And he goes on and on and on and on for like 5 hours. And God begins to scratch his head and says, God damn it, Moses. Just tell me that you just use the staff for a variety of different things. Do you really need to go on and on and on and on? I'm getting tired. And Moses looks at God and says, I know. See, if I was to simply say that this cane is useful, you just leave after a minute. But if I keep making up stories, you have no choice but to stay and listen. You know how sometimes you fall in love and it's late night and you're calling this person and you just don't want to hang up the phone? And she says, well, should we hang up? And you say, no, I'd just like to hear you breathe. Is that okay? You say, yeah, I guess so. That's called mania. Okay? So when someone looks at you and says, you're always thinking, what the hell is wrong with you? I'm a maniac for ideas. I can't help it. Now, the moment you begin to flirt with Malcolm, and to some extent have very, very intense emotions, they call it obsession for Malcolm, and then you're crazy for Malcolm, Storga. He becomes the only family that you have. No one else. And the problem with Malcolm is that he is not your physical father. He is your spiritual father, intellectual father, emotional father. Now you need to understand what happens to Eros and Mania. Whatever you believed in, whatever your positions were about any branch in life, Malcolm gets rid of them. Why? Because Malcolm wants to put his own emotions and his own ideas inside you. The difficulty is you are 20, Malcolm is 40. He's gone through things you've never experienced. So when Malcolm puts his own emotions inside you, you feel. You just don't know why you feel this way or why you feel that way. Malcolm knows the feelings, but they are a puzzle to you. And they drive you crazy. So not only are you crazy because Malcolm leaves you at noon, but you're also crazy because you lack understanding. You listen to Malcolm, you just don't get it. And you love what you hear. If you're not going through these stages, you're not growing. You're not understanding. You're never going to get to wisdom. These are the steps. It's like building a house. Okay? Remember the saying in the Gospels. Do not build your house on sand. Experiences will always change your belief systems. Don't have an identity based on your belief systems because they will change. Wisdom is gold, constant. When we come back next week, we'll talk some more. Have a nice day. Don't get sick. Take care of yourselves. See you on Monday. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Zion.